Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 5 of Kidlit International. Today, I have with me, as always, my trusted and wonderful storytellers, minus Sarah, who has a really sick little one, and welcome back, Michelle, who has been off sick. So we will get there in the end. Tonight, we are talking about PR marketing. It's a subject that we have spoken about quite often, but one I keep circling back to because I am constantly asked by authors, how do I publish my book? When do I do it? What's the best thing to do? What's the best platform? And so forth and so forth. So here we are talking about it again, and rightly so. So who'd like to go first? PR marketing. Chris, maybe you? It's what you do for a living.
I had a feeling that was coming. Yeah, funnily enough, I've just finished the first draft of my latest book, which is all about PR for small businesses. And as authors, we are actually small businesses. So that first draft is done and also got me thinking about other things that we don't necessarily focus on. One of the big things that I'm finding happening at the moment is my local newspaper is hugely supportive. And so even relaunching my first book, the second edition of it, huge quarter page on the back page, which I'm hugely proud of. And that kind of thing, it gets through to people. What I'm seeing a lot of authors say at the moment is, oh, which social media platform should we use? What social media should we focus on? Social media is not going on its own to sell your books. You need to do a lot more. You need to be getting out there. You need your local media, especially, are your greatest supporters because they care about local people being successful. And so they will promote you if you give them a good enough story to talk about. So I've got my new book, talking to the local media, getting out there and networking with people. I was speaking to someone a few days ago and I sent them, they are a book reviewer. I sent them the electronic copy of the book. 2 days later, I got a photo going, it was that good that I bought a copy, and she's actually donated a couple of copies to her local school for them to pass around the class. So they've all got a book to read, which just feels amazing from my perspective. But she now also wants to do a video interview with me as an author. So the whole thing, I call it the snowball effect. One thing starts and it just continues. And that's really what we're all aiming for with PR and marketing. Yes, we need to use social media, but social media is not the be all and end all that will sell your books. There is a lot more you need to do. So your local media, getting out there and talking to people, and that is the key part. I go down to the beach, and because we're entering tourist season, a lot of people are here on holiday. You get talking to them, and the next thing you know, you're looking at your sales figures and going, who just bought 5 copies of the book? And it's a wonderful feeling, and it's literally because you're stood there talking to them. I have the advantage that stray dogs then tend to walk up and come and say hello as well. So it really adds to the whole thing. And it's finding that kind of hook. When they're down on the beach and can see the dogs, it's easy to talk about the book. So particularly if you've got a book about your local area and that kind of thing, it will sell to your local area, but you need to get out there. It's not all about press releases, press coverage, social media. It's about talking to people. And I have a lot, certainly having now written the book that one of my friends has somewhat cruelly titled Career Suicide, about PR, is actually explaining to people it's not what I do. 1% of my job is writing press releases, if that. PR and marketing is a lot more than getting media coverage, putting things on social media. It is about getting your message, knowing what your sales pitch is in effect, and getting it out there. And I see a lot of authors that don't really understand that it's a business you're running. Your book is just your product. The business is you as a brand. and you've got to follow those business ethics of how you make it a success. And I think when I see people getting their head around this, I see what Karen does, and it's incredible. I'm learning every day from the amount you're just going out, talking to people, making sure you're getting your message across. And it works, you'll be successful. It takes time, all these things take time. But having your message, knowing what your book's about, knowing who your target market is, and being able to talk to them, that's the secret to it. And from there, everything will snowball. You'll go from, oh, look, we got a piece in the local newspaper, to suddenly people going, can you come and guest and do interviews with us and things like this? And that's what you're looking for. And if you've got a year before your book comes out, your whole plan of, this is who my target market is, this is what my book's about, this is how I encourage people to buy it, because it's about this, and so what is your sales pitch in effect? And you need that quite a distance ahead of your book coming out. If you leave it until the week before, then you're in trouble in many ways, and it will take a lot longer for the book to take off. Your biggest thing with the book, the day it's published, if people already know it's coming, you've built that excitement, and that excitement will continue. If you wait until the book comes out before you do anything, you're then trying to build excitement on something that already exists. So you need that excitement of people going, I want to be part of this when it comes out. And they'll tell all their friends, and the whole thing just keeps on going and going and going. So I think the key to PR and marketing for every author is get out there, talk to people about your book, and don't just rely on social media, because it won't make you any sales. You need to do a lot more than that.
Exactly, Karen. Yeah, over to you. So you are one person who has certainly worked your local area.
Yep. I think I totally agree with everything Chris has said. But I think before you write, or when you're writing the book, you already need to know your target audience, where you're going to sell it, not once it's written and published. I always knew I wanted to write a local book, but I also knew I didn't have a local bookshop. So it was like, where was I going to sell my book? I look at a lot of people in the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators that are from Canberra, and they have a very strong community, and they also have a very supportive bookshop. And they all support each other and go to each other's launches, and it brings in more community because of word of mouth. And because of the bookshop, because it's a wonderful bookshop, the Book Cow in Kingston. Now, I didn't have that. I'm a lone wolf here. I don't have any other fellow authors I can invite. I don't have a bookshop community. So my goal was, if I was writing about Shell Harbour, I had to get it in the information centre. But until they see the book, they're not going to say, oh, before they see it, it's going in. So you're still outlaying the money. And that's only one outlet to sell the book. And so, like Chris was saying, it's about being in and about. But I did know this area needed a book, because it's distinct from our sister cities, and we're under the radar, and we're unknown a lot, and we're not even on the GPS in the car. So if I want to go home to Shell Harbour, it'll put my address, Shell Harbour, Wollongong. And we're not Wollongong. We're a city of 68,000 people or whatever. So I knew I wanted the kids here to go, I come from Shell Harbour. It's unique and distinct, and it's special. And I'm a Shell Harbour kid. I already knew. But then I think you have to time it right too, because if the book had come out before our new marina had opened and the marina wasn't in it, it would be nowhere near as good. So you have to really be on the ball with what's happening around the topic you are writing about. And you really have to believe in the book. And what I think is beautiful about this book is I don't have to say much. People see it and want it. And that comes into the planning of the book as well. That cover and the title, and it is our Shell Harbour, and we love it. Before, and they go, oh, just love that cover. But I've been on holidays and I've had time off and I've come back, and you build and you build and you build, and now you're back to square one. And the longer the book's out, the harder it is.
Yes. Yep. Yep. What's your take on it, Michelle? What's your experience?
I think my experience is similar in some ways and different in others. I see, and I've always said that social media promotion marketing is like a seesaw. So it feels like for a long time you're doing all the work, and it's just this uphill battle where you feel like I am like the only one talking about myself. I'm the only one talking about this book, and people are going to get sick of me. But it really is that you do get to a point where people are starting to pay attention, and you're finding those people who align with what you're trying to say. And then the seesaw tips a little bit, and you're not having to talk about yourself so much because other people are helping you do the marketing and promotion. And I think people give up before the seesaw tips, and it's a seesaw in that it's going to flip back up, so people are going to stop talking about it, and then you're going to have to go back up. And the danger people have is that they market a book instead of a brand. So I definitely think even if you are a debut author, you should be marketing yourself as a brand, because it's a lot easier to market yourself than each individual book that comes out. And even though social media is very difficult, it's your best tool to have for branding yourself. When you're actually going out and marketing and promoting the book, then that's absolutely when you have to find your tribe and find the people who are your best target audience. And I always started local, always got the support of my local booksellers. And now that I have got US publishers, UK publishers doing events in the UK, having books published in the US, all of that, like it's very hard for me to do those in the ground marketing and promotion thing. But I think because I've built my brand up, and when people hopefully when people hear my name, then they have a vision in their mind of the types of books that I write. And you only get that from doing. You only get that brand from publishing books, by talking to people, by putting out there into the world what you want to be remembered for. And that's why I think you have to be so careful with social media being a double-edged sword, that you need to be very careful what you are putting on social media, because you want to make sure that everything is a true representation of your brand. So absolutely, there is a place and a time for doing the local, doing the legwork, but then hopefully when you get to a point where things are getting a little bit bigger and you're starting to get a little bit more international, you can't always rely on that. So you've got to make sure that that seesaw is working for you, and that all of that groundwork you've done will tip over, and then you have other people doing the marketing and promotion for you. So that's always end goal.
And just so people listening know, because you're a seasoned and very professional author, to give them an idea how long this has taken, how long has this taken? I know how long, but they don't.
A long time. Yeah. So I'm 30 picture books in now. So this is not something that happens overnight. Absolutely.
Right.
And that you've got to start somewhere. Exactly like we say, you need to start developing that groundwork and building your connections, and but also, like Karen was saying, like this is not meant to be something that we dread. Like this is something that you are passionate about, and these books are meaningful and important to you. So it should be a joy going and speaking to people about it. It should light you up, and it should be something that you're really excited to do. Like if you're going, oh my goodness, then I need to go and talk to somebody about this book and I don't know what to say, well, you're writing the wrong books. You've got to write the books that you're passionate about, the ones that mean something to you, and the ones that you can't wait to get out there and talk about.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that you say that, because in the PR book I've done, it covers exactly that, Michelle, in that the amount of clients I've walked into in what is 30 years of my career now, who actually didn't know how to sell their own company. We go through things, and there's a thing called a messaging house where you back up everything you're saying about your company. And I do it the opposite way around, going, this is what you're saying, prove to me that's correct. The amount of companies I go into and we end up changing their whole taglines, their branding, because they've got it wrong. They didn't understand their very own DNA. And you can't sell something that you're not passionate about, however good a salesman you are. If you're passionate about something, you will be the best salesman on the planet. And that's what your brand is. You're selling something that's your life, that you care about. And when companies get that wrong, that's when things go wrong, and you spend years trying to put it right. And when you say how long does it take, most PR contracts are a minimum of a year, purely and simply because the first 3 months are getting everything in place, checking your brandings there, checking all your messaging. It's not an overnight process. It takes a lot of time. And then you've got so many tools, from the media to social media to networking. And as you say, particularly when it starts going international, you need help from people who are on the ground in those regions. You can't do it all from your own desktop. It just doesn't work. And that's why you get global PR agencies and things like that. There's a huge amount I can do from my computer, but there's also a lot that, unless you're on the ground talking and being passionate about your book, people will miss that. I'm fortunate in the States. I've got one of my biggest supporters, and she goes to book fairs for me and tells me afterwards that she's been to a book fair for me, because she's as passionate about my books as I am. And having that level of support, it's what we all need, and it's actually quite difficult to find. But we all have friends dotted all over the place now, and they are your biggest supporters. They'll carry your message as long as you can show them you're this passionate about it and what the brand is and why you want them to be part of the journey. Everyone likes success. They'll follow success. And that's how you build success.
And another point I think that came across with what both of you have been saying, and Jennifer knows this too because she runs Daisy Lane, is you need to be authentic. If you're not, it just doesn't come across. And I think people disengage. And what you do comes across like Michelle and I are Books in Homes ambassadors, and I'm going to another school tomorrow. And it's voluntary, but it's in line with what we do, and it builds your brand. But you don't do it to build your brand. You do it because it's part of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not so whatever you do, it's got to be you, and not like, oh, I'll do that because it'll give me a good gold star on my author. I can get a tick. I do it, and Michelle does it because it lights us up, and I could actually cry when they get their books. I love it. And I love it when they go wild. So, yeah, whatever it is you do, it's got to be like, Chris, you love dogs. You've got dogs. You walk around, and Jennifer loves stories. So when you're working for somebody that loves stories there, first and foremost. And Holly, you're a soul person, and your books are about soul, and you're so soulful, beautiful with what you post. It's in line with who you are and what you do. So everything has to be authentic first.
Yeah.
I still remember a birthday party when I was 4 years old, and we had an author come along, with her book called Bandicoot and Friends. And she also had a puppet show with it. And I still, far too many years later, remember almost every second of it. And it's because she's so passionate about the story, so authentic, has done what Michelle's done and turned it into more than a book. And that's massive. And when you do that, when the messaging you've got is absolutely spot on because it's what you believe in, that's when authors, companies, and everything are successful. The reason no one trusts politicians is because they just don't believe there's any authenticity in it. And that, to me, is still the best example to give. Be very careful what you put on social media at times, because if you change your mind 2 days later, there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. But this is why politicians suffer, because it makes them look as though they're not authentic. And being authentic, that's entirely the key to everything, not just in PR and marketing, but probably in everything we do as authors.
Holly, as Karen said, you know, you're intuitive, you work from your soul space, and your book on grief, is that how you marketed your book on grief when you first wrote that? Did you take it from that space? And because, like, you know, your posts that particularly on LinkedIn, that I see on LinkedIn, represent you that way so much.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. I did, you know, really, because it's my own story about what our family went through in grief, in having cancer diagnosed, and doing the treatment, and then the death after. Just so many things that I always say you don't have a manual for. So yes, I did market it that way. And a lot of people did know the story, but I also had come across so many people that weren't sure how to keep moving. And of course, my book, Keep Moving, Creating a Life After Loss. And I focused a lot on the fact that people think that with grief, you just keep getting better and better. And of course, I discovered the waves, or, you know, like you go ahead, you go back, you go sideways, that kind of thing. So I tended to talk to people a lot about that. I did, you know, very much the same types of things. It was right in the middle of COVID when I actually had just a drive-by to distribute my books, because we couldn't gather at that point. I couldn't have an in-person launch. I did a lot of online, a lot of international, I would say always for sure, gather with international crowd. And the thing that I think people are always surprised about, and just again this week, the thing that people most say to me is, I thought the biggest part of being an author was all that writing. And so I think that's why I think a lot of people are very surprised. Like they love writing. They really want to write a book. That's what isn't that what I'm here for? And then a lot of times they're very surprised at how much of the rest of it that we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to say something, Karen?
Oh, I was just going to say that's a great point, because it's all well and good while you're unpublished, because I'm an emerging, but it changes when you are published. No matter, like, there's more you have to do. And that's just how it is. And I think, like, as it builds like a snowball, I guess it would with every book, you're going to get busier and busier. And other doors open, different things open up. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to do a talk to the Shell Harbour View Club. I'm going to lunch and I'm presenting to them. And that's because it's a local book and they want to know the back story. So in a way, you're sitting in a little safe space while you're just writing and you're wishing and hoping to be published. But be careful what you wish for, because once you're published, it's different again. And whether you want to, like, I'm lucky because I love the story. So I want to go and I think, I can't wait. I'll go and talk to them. And different things come up and you go, oh, but I did it. Like, you do it. I just did a Readers and Writers Festival in Kiama at the Gerringong Library, and it was being on a panel with people who self-published. And I thought, oh, I'm the only children's author on here, and I'm the only one from the neighbouring city. They're all from there. And I thought, I wonder how they're going to go with a book about Shell Harbour. And I went, I'm still going. I'm still talking about it. And there were people there ready to grill me with, because they wanted information about how to publish. So you have to be prepared to be questioned and about things. People want, if you go and put yourself in that space, you know, you're going to have to be, you'll be prepared for questions and things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
And
good.
it's exactly as both yourself and Holly are saying. It's great having a book and writing it. That is actually the easy bit. No one's going to buy it if they don't know about it. So what comes after you've written it is a lot more work. And it is, as you say, I saw some statistics. Authors tend to make a breakthrough when they've written their 4th or 5th book and it's been published, because it's built up that brand that Michelle was talking about earlier. When you've got the brand there, that's when it grows. I can only think of one author that wrote one book and was a huge success, and that was Harper Lee. Everybody else, if you look at their catalogue of how many books they've done, it takes time to build that brand, to get yourself noticed, to do all the work that's involved after writing the book, and to get you out there to increase those sales. On top of which, if you've got 5 products to sell, you're going to sell more than if you've only got 1 product to sell. So there's it. Funnily enough, it is all about the maths.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important for especially the first-time author to realise, and I think we've all mentioned it before, is that it's a business. As much as you love the craft and you're passionate about it, it is a business, and you've got to treat it as such before you even start writing the story. That's where it begins. And that's a really big concept, a hard concept for some people to take in. And I get that, I understand that, but it's a reality of it. So yeah, and we are going to have to stop right there. As always, we could talk all night, but our time is up. So thank you everyone for your amazing input as usual. And I'll chat to you all again next week.
Thank you.